Welcome to Unbound. I'm Paul Cavello. Joining me today is Corey Beatty and Michael Guy Haddock. We're talking about nonfiction, and specifically we're talking about science books that are entertaining at the same time. What I like to call them, they're science-tainment. Right?
Okay, all right.
So the first book we're talking about today is Matthew Syed's Bounce. Okay, so Syed is an international ping pong champion.
He happened to go to a school with one of England's greatest ping pong champions, who essentially spent his life searching for new British champions, and that in fact those circumstances come together to form who he became as a table tennis person, as opposed to anything that he was naturally gifted with.
Like in fiction, when somebody has like an amazing gift, we kind of like that idea that it's just natural, it's magic. He looks at Tiger Woods, Serena Williams, Venus Williams, but he also talks about Mozart, basically saying that all of these, people, the reason that they're so good at everything that they do is that they've spent, he kind of says around 10,000 hours working on it, which I looked it up. It's 27, just over 27 hours a day. So if you guys want to do it in a year, 27 hours.
He's essentially removing the excuse of, I'm not good enough at that.
Yeah, exactly.
And he talks about that. He says, most people, they try something, they do it for a month, they give up because they're not talented.
Yeah. He talks about something like the NBA, where being obviously 6'11" is going to give you an advantage, but unless you put in the work, it means nothing.
I thought Mozart was probably the most interesting example of it, because there's this theory of him as the ultimate phenom. By the age of 9 or 10, he was considered to be one of the top pianists in Europe. When you actually broke it down, his father was, he was kind of the Tiger Woods of music of that era. Basically, Syed suggests that if you go back and actually add it up, he had, by the age of 9 or 10, put in those 10,000 hours. Yeah. He was just doing it on a much quicker rate than most of his contemporaries.
Yeah, I was going to ask, when you were a kid or something like that, was there something that, when you went to school or something, people were like, wow, I can't believe you can do that?
I mean, you actually were a very, very good tennis player at some point.
I was a good junior tennis player. I was adding it up this morning as I was thinking about this. I'm pretty sure that I got to kind of over and above the 10,000 hour point. But what he talks about, which I found fascinating, is that it's not just a question of practice. It's a question of proper practice.
Right.
That you need to challenge yourself to make yourself better with the practice you're doing. And as I think about it, I don't know that I did enough of that.
When I was a kid, I dreamed of being a basketball player. Now, who knew I was going to grow up to be a short white guy anyway? But, I definitely have put in over 10,000 hours, but a lot of it was just goofing off. So maybe there are chances for three of us Canadians to still be winning whiskey.
Say you wanted to pick something and try and become an expert at it within your life now. If you figure over 20 years, you've got to put in basically 500 hours a year, which breaks down to about 10 hours a week. If you dedicate yourself with proper practice for 10 hours a week for the next 20 years, by his estimation, by the time we're 50, we should be very, very good at whatever it is we choose.
Yeah. We should all agree to have one child and raise them with 10,000 hours to be like the world's best hot dog eater.
Yeah, something.
And we'll reconvene here in 15 years.
Yeah, having the kid part's kind of the first challenge of that, isn't it?
Yeah.
One of the most interesting things about Bounce is that he brings his personal experiences into it. So he's able to transition into the mental conversation by talking about, by his own admission, the massive choke that he went through at the Sydney Olympics. I mean, he basically spent his entire life training for the Sydney Olympics. He went out into his first match against what he considered to be a beatable opponent and got hammered in this first round. And he talks about the choke and what it means to choke and why it occurs and why it happens. Yeah. As he delved into the mental part of it, that was where I was always weakest. I was never able to separate the physical ability from the mental pressure of the moment.
Right. It's definitely more applicable in other areas of life. He talks about CEOs going out and making the mistake of trying to hire, experts or the most talented people who may not be experts in their field.
So what do you think Bounce fits in this sort of genre of science-tainment? I guess it's the sports equivalent of some other books that we can mention.
I mean, one of the books sort of in that genre is Predictably Irrational.
Yeah.
Like, again, it's that idea of we do things that we take for granted, and we don't know why, and can science be applied to it to explain our behavior?
With predictably irrational, it was much more the okay. This is why you do things that actually make no logical sense.
Right. Why do we walk into a Tim Hortons and we want a tea? We're thinking I'm going in here for a tea.
This is
and
the ultimate Canadian example for this book.
Well, but you walk in with your mind set on getting something, but someone says, "Oh, but you can have coffee free." And you take the coffee, even though you don't want a coffee.
Well, that to me, that was actually the most fascinating part of this book, was the mental issues that come with the concept of free. How much we're actually willing to sacrifice for free. Fascinating to me is the way that marketers use this to their advantage. You see it with magazines all the time.
Yeah.
The first 3 are free. And it's like, oh, well, if I'm going to get 3 for free. And then 2 years later, I still wonder why I'm getting Fortune magazine at the house.
Just to bring it back to Bounce, it's kind of saying, he's kind of saying that you need to make a conscious effort to achieve something. So each of these books we're talking about really is taking a different look at how our brains work, why they do the things that they do. It's
interesting to me, the whole genre of this kind of book is kind of fascinating. They're able to take concepts like this, they research them, they come up with very interesting results, but they explain them in such a way that anybody can pick it up and have basically an enjoyable reading experience and feel at the end of it that you brought something out of it. And I think Bounce fits that category.
Well, he lived it, right? He actually lived the things that these people are talking about.
So since Matthew Syed is a ping pong champion, we're going to play a little bit of ping pong here in the office.
I played a lot of tennis when I was younger. I don't play now, but part of my curiosity is whether or not there's transferable hours.
Yeah.
If I put all of these hours into tennis, if I've gotten used to hitting, basically a racket sport stroke, is that transferable to something like ping pong, or am I starting over from zero, like Corey, who is going to be starting from zero?
Exactly, Corey. And we've got this lovely table here that obviously is not a regulation ping pong table at all. It's our boardroom table, and it's even, for some reason, we have these weirdly shaped tables here. But anyways, let's see Corey versus Michael.
Now keep in mind, I don't even really know the rules.
That's 1-0.
Clearly, we need to ask our bosses to let me put in 10,000 hours of this.
Oh!
Is that kind of the point?
Yeah.
Ducking ball.
I know.
Where's your quality for the craft? Come on.